everybody. Welcome back to the Modern Customer Podcast. I'm your host, Blake Morgan. Today, my guest is Damon Covey, the General Manager for GoTo's Unified Communications and Collaboration Group. He is responsible for the continued growth and strengthening of GoTo's business communications product portfolio. Damon joined GoTo in 2021 as the company's Senior Vice President and Head of Product. Prior to working at GoTo, Damon served as Vice President of Product Management at Cox Automotive, and he's held various leadership roles for 14 years at cybersecurity company Symantec. GoTo is making IT easy anywhere with remote management and support and business communication software unified with one admin solution. GoTo offers solutions to get things done simply and securely so work time can be well spent and free time can be better spent. Today, we're talking about meeting the customer where they are to open doors to richer customer conversations. In this podcast, we're exploring the upside of offering customers communication touchpoints across wherever their preferred tool might be, whether that's SMS, social media, web chat, or more. This enables businesses to connect richly and engage deeply with customers and better meet their needs and preferences. Please enjoy Damon Covey. Damon, welcome to the Modern Customer Podcast. Where in the country are you today?
I am in Utah, which is usually where I sleep on the weekends at least. I travel quite a bit, but just south of Salt Lake City.
So are you much into skiing? Because I've never been, but all I hear about is the beautiful weather and skiing.
I'm actually from Arizona originally, Blake, so I'm a desert rat by trade, and so I'm unfortunately didn't grow up that way, but my children are, so they enjoy the snow quite a bit. I don't get to enjoy it quite as much as they do.
Only on the weekends, I see.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you have a long, incredible career in software. Let's just get started and jump in. Tell us about your current role at GoTo and a little bit of the elevator pitch of Damon's career journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently the general manager of our GoTo Connect product sets. And so if you think about GoTo, there's two parts of our products. There's the IT portfolio and then our communications portfolio. I've got the communication side of things. And what you should know about me and from my background is I have had an incredible career doing a lot of different things, but the thing that I love the most in my career has always been working with and for customers. So it's something I would never trade for the world. I don't think it's actually something I could get in school anywhere, but whether it's through escalations or selling to customers in part of my career, et cetera, I've really enjoyed working with customers. I think that's just made me better at my job overall, whether it's building products or working with escalations, working with customers, but all of those, all of the above.
Well, I obviously am a fan of working with customers because I've literally dedicated my career to learning about customer experience. And I think it's a fun challenge and opportunity as well. Tell us a little bit about GoTo and what's happening over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So GoTo Connect is the part of our software that is very telecommunications focused. So it came from Jive Communications, which a lot of our customers know, and was predominantly a voice over IP system. So it's grown up through that heritage. If you think about customers that have come up through, needing a cloud telephony solution, switching from on-prem to cloud, but then as we've seen the rise of customer engagement all around that, so not only just the need to contact customers through telephone, but also how do you text customers, how do you get to them through social media, things of that nature. We've begun to add more and more of that functionality into our products, including our contact center functionality, which is also suited and set up specifically for contact centers or dedicated contact centers as well. So that's the breadth of our portfolio today. It's all part of the same platform, all unified together in one solution.
Even just text. If you think about text, how long it's taken the business world to figure out that customers want to talk to businesses in the same channels that they're talking to friends and family. I mean, it's still, it seems to me, somewhat rare to be able to text with the contact center agent, but it's just such a relief when contact centers figure out how to make customers' lives easier and better. And I'm a customer too, and so are you. Why do you think that it's taken so long to get these technologies in place? Like, what's stopping businesses from getting there?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. It's a great question, and it has taken a long time to your point, Blake. I think in some cases, customers aren't even sure what to ask for. Because if they don't identify as a contact center, think about if you're, I'll use an automotive example. Automotive dealers don't consider themselves contact centers, but their business development centers and their customer facing folks do a lot of what contact centers do. If you're, a dentist office as an example, you may or may not identify yourself that way. So even knowing to ask for that solution, knowing how to ask for that solution, knowing who provides it to you, I think it's an underserved portion of the market. And so I think that's a big part of it is knowing how to ask for it, knowing who to ask for it, and knowing that you could actually integrate it into your solution, have it be part of your telephony solution. I think that's been a big part of why this market is still quite underserved. And I see every single day customers are asking for simple things like, hey, if I miss a call, can I send an auto reply with a text message saying, I got your call. Don't worry, I'm going to call you right back, right? Or hit, one to schedule an appointment, things of that nature. So just those very basic use cases, as you said, are very still very underserved.
Even just a basic customer need, like I'll give you an example, our alarm. One of the batteries in the windows of our home alarm system was dying. So I needed to call my alarm company. And I live in a place that doesn't have great cell service. So of course, busy mom doing it on the run. When I leave my house and I'm driving, I lose service sometimes. So then I lost my place on hold for like half an hour. And then
Mm.
that's just wasted time. Basic things like figuring out if a customer's called you, like saving them and figuring out how to get back in touch with them is just such a nice thing to offer. But it feels like very rare still, even from big companies.
Yes, agreed. Unless you have, it's interesting you talk about big companies. Big companies can afford to spend a lot of money developing, integrated solutions, very advanced solutions that get into all of the different CRM functions they've got, all their different, databases, et cetera. Smaller companies, that's actually another reason why I think it hasn't been widely adopted is they don't have that money to put against that. And again, in some cases, they don't even know that they've got the ability to do that because they weren't introduced to that through their CRM, et cetera. And so, again, that being something that's critical to, their success right now, sometimes what you'll find is, and this is horrifying, is that, texting will happen again through a lot of employees' phones, right? They'll actually have to use their phones to text and imagine, again, I hate to use the automotive dealer example, but it's one that I have a little bit of background with. Imagine someone uh, haggling with a salesperson over their personal cell phone. Then when that salesperson leaves, if they ever do, what happens to that information? So I think that's a big part of it too, is making sure that all comes together in one centralized location, having a unified inbox, making sure people can understand what that looks like. And as you said, if you contacted me 3 years ago, I want to know, what did Blake ask for? What happened with that interaction? And those things have been slow to come to market, slow to congeal together.
It reminds me of recently we went over to a beautiful home shopping store called Our House, ARHAUS, which is a wonderful store. And then I was so happy. The interior designer even came to our home. She took pictures of everything. She was showing us pictures, but it was all on her personal phone. And
Mm.
you're exactly right. What a missed opportunity for Our House to retain. So that should be your next customer is the Our House. Hey, Our House, you need GoTo. So, but
Writing them down right now.
I honestly, so it's interesting, like so many companies get some things right, but not everything right. And it's still sort of wild, wild west of technology, even though it really shouldn't be. In June of this year, the Wall Street Journal ran a full article about the state of customer service, at least in America, that unfortunately, with reports from Forrester, that customer service is at an all-time low, at least over the summer. I mean, COVID, obviously companies started putting a lot of money into digital customer service, and then the economy sort of went south. That's my take. But why do you think companies have lagged on customer service in 2024?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the things, again, it comes back to this accessibility point. I think a lot of companies, especially smaller companies, are so interested in and trying to, create differentiation and become different to their customers, but then, figure out how can I communicate, right? And they're not quite sure how the basics of the business or the business communication side of that gets set up. And so, to your point, having the ability to do something extra, something which isn't that special, even something like texting, which is a fairly basic functionality, has been something that they're not quite sure how they would adopt that or what solution would provide that to them. And so, they're worried about more how do they just keep their business up and running and how do they keep their bottom line going instead of being able to put, as you said, an underserved part of their market like customer service around that, which would be a texting option as an example.
So you think like a product manager or product owner. I've heard it said in the past that companies should manage customer service almost like a product owner, like from the software world, somebody like a product officer. Where do you think your clients, these customer service leaders, are not thinking strategically or like savvy business people when they're trying to get more money for their customer service programs? Like, how can we be inspired by product owners like yourself that are talking about ROI and things like that?
Yeah, I think you've got to start with the North Star, Blake, and that's where a lot of folks will miss is what's the North Star? What are you trying to do, right? And it can't be you're trying to make more money because that's a byproduct of what you're trying to do from a company perspective. You said it before, right? Customer service is at an all-time low. And so if we think about, actually getting close to the customer and making sure that we are communicating with the customer and servicing the customer being our number one thing, if that becomes your not necessarily business North Star, but what are you trying to do from a servicing your customer North Star, then I think everything else comes as a part of that. And usually going back to the earlier question, what I'm seeing is companies are really focused on their business North Star and underserving that need and understanding like what the customer actually means to that business North Star, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a big challenge. And I've gone through workshops with clients as well where we're just trying to figure out like what's the mission? Like let's slow down, let's step back and think about how we want customers to feel, how we want employees to feel, like what do we stand for? And even if we haven't done a great job of customer experience in the past, how can we now shift gears, put a stake in the ground on customer experience and understand this is our biggest differentiator? It's a whole mindset shift.
It is. And one of the ways I look at that is if you think about your customers, my customers as an example, I believe strongly that my customers are banking their careers and livelihoods on my ability to help them succeed. And so if you think about that as a mission statement, my gosh, I better wrap the best customer service I can around that experience, around their ability to do that, because they're banking their families, they're banking their livelihoods, they're banking their careers. And, for the companies we're working with, their customers may not be banking their whole careers, their families, but they're banking something happening around their service. And so looking at it from that perspective will definitely help you wrap, the entire customer experience angle around that and make sure that you're taking care of them from a soup to nuts perspective.
So let's step back and let's actually get into the engine room of the contact center. I think a lot of my audience they really appreciate that kind of content because they are literally running contact centers. When you think about SMS, social media, web chat, what are some of the common pitfalls of setting up these programs? Where have you seen customers fall short?
Yeah, we see a lot of customers fall short is in a couple of things. First of all, the introduction of all that information coming together in one place. So if you, Blake, again, are contacting my business and maybe you hit me over text one time, maybe you call the next time, maybe you hit me over social media the next time, be able to bring all that information together and really understand what's Blake's journey with me as a company, right? What does she care about? Like, what is she actually interested in? Was she upset with me last year? I need to understand her sentiment, how she's feeling, how they're feeling as we go through that journey. I think that's one thing. I think the other thing is, and we're just starting to see this now, is really the uptick of AI, right? And why AI matters is you get new contact center agents in, which is very, very common as well, right? Like, how do you train them up? How do you make sure that they're working within your specs and within your framework? And AI has the ability to unleash that very, very quickly, right? To allow you to spin up a new agent in a week, let's say on the phone, as opposed to a month or a couple of months and getting them on the phone. And so I think that's also been another significant unlock for us, where we've seen a great AI uptick is, being able to give back the sentiment of the caller, be able to prompt them as to things that they might say next, or possibly upsell opportunities, things of that nature. But bringing those two things together are two things that I see that are very common misses by contact centers.
Yeah, so when we think about the common misses, you're saying the agents are just getting up to speed too slowly, but AI can help with that. What are the ways AI can help with that?
So AI can help with that by, obviously, generating and assisting the contact center agent. So as an example, right, if someone's upset on the call and they're very new, right, that's a very stressful situation that someone might get into, and be able to recommend some specific opportunities or actions, and it can learn with you, right? So for example, you call and you want a discount on your bill because you're upset about some service. There's a good chance that AI generatively is going to be able to assist you with that, or you might have actually seen that somewhere else inside of your contact center. And so be able to assist that agent on the fly as to what's happening there. I think the other one that's overlooked a lot because it's not a neon lights kind of an option that we see, but is be able to help that contact center agent get on to the next call in a quick manner. So what that means is being able to, add notes to the call, add any additional, sentiment to the call, things of that nature. And so AI can quickly, very easily, without anything special, follow you on that journey, create notes for you, and then you can make a couple of changes to that. And then what that allows you to do is now get on to the next call. And that's something, especially with larger contact centers, everyone's having trouble keeping up with the demand. And so giving you the ability to assist the contact center agent in that regard is also a huge value add.
One of the things that I've been researching is change management with regard to AI in the contact center. And in my research, what I found is that these sentiment analysis and notes tools, so that the AI, like you said, it takes notes on the call. So the agent in the past, they had maybe 2 minutes to do that. But the agents, what's happening is some agents are saying, I don't like this AI. I don't like this software.
Mm.
But what they really don't like is the absence of their fake break. So before they had like a 2 minute break to do the call summary, they only needed 30 seconds. So they were getting 90 seconds to like cleanse their palate in between calls. So I think that's interesting a change management issue that we don't really think about is if your agents are rejecting the AI, it might not be the actual AI. It might be the change in the way they work and the removal of these little things that they used to have before AI, like fake break.
That's a great point. I actually worked in a contact center early on in my life. I did software support for iOmega Corporation, Click Drives, Jazz Drives, if you remember those back in the day. And the few folks around me would actually, they would give people troubleshooting tips and then put them on hold so they could get a bit of a break, to your point, right? They actually could, again, mentally kind of unwind, uncharge a little bit. And so I think it's an interesting point. I think it's one we haven't quite cracked yet and something we probably need to make sure that we're putting in there, because while we're obsessed on the productivity, that isn't necessarily the best thing for the mental health of the contact center worker.
Yeah, I mean, if you've worked in a contact center, you know that it's tough. And I mean, we all, as customers, sometimes we're not as patient with agents because it's literally the place where people go when they're upset or angry. Most people aren't happy when they contact the call center. So those tools for agents really, really matter. I also saw research that agents that are trained in groups on AI tend to do better than agents trained by themselves because they have this support group. Have you heard anything like that?
Definitely. I think definitely that leads to, that support mechanism, that support system, plus also just the buy-in. If you can see that someone being trained next to you is buying into the system right, how they're using it, it makes you better at what you're doing and bought into the system overall. So definitely, I think I would echo exactly what you said, were those who have done that together, as opposed to, hey, let's just throw you on the phones and here's our system and use it, are having much more success as they're doing that in a group setting.
How much do you think about the future of the contact center, Damon? And if you do think about it, what are some of the things that you predict will happen?
Yeah, we think a lot about the future of the contact center. One of the things that I think is critical is the role of conversational AI
Hmm.
in the future of the contact center. When I think about that, Blake, I think about it in terms of not only larger businesses that have dedicated contact centers, but also smaller customers, right? So how does a smaller customer maybe doesn't have a dedicated contact center, not a dedicated contact center function? How do they take advantage of that? And the cool thing, and this is, I think, one of the greatest things about AI is the conversational piece of this is, and one of the things actually we're steering towards is how do we introduce solutions that matter up and down that stack, right? And can be a conversational AI in the sense that people will be delighted, truly delighted to work with that conversational AI, which we can't say about many of them, to be honest with right now, but we're seeing that technology get better and better. And so I'll give you one stat. Like we internally ourselves, not only do we produce a contact center, but we actually have our own contact center. And so we put a conversational AI agent early on, probably about 6 to 9 months ago on one of our lines, deflected 100% of our calls. What we found is 20% of our calls were actually staying with the AI, the conversational AI response. And within 2 weeks, 12% of those were fully deflected. And that meaning that person never called back within that time frame. So they had a good experience, and we have, really good NPS scores to show from that, really good customer quality scores. So I think that's where we see things going. It's a table stakes option, but it's going to get better and better and better from a conversational perspective. So we think a lot about that as we think about what the future looks like, again, up and down the spectrum.
So more deflection, more just like less of a need for traditional contact center.
Yes, more deflection, but also the ability to what I would call augment the business, right? So again, I think a lot about small businesses and those who might have a couple contact center folks. But what if you don't have or identify as a contact center, but maybe you do have a contact center, but it's assisting, your AI is assisting. How do you actually augment the business? And conversational AI has a real serious opportunity to augment the business, right? So you don't necessarily need to go in there and eliminate your staff, but you can augment that staff by saying, hey, you know what? We've got these folks that are ready. We can augment our abilities to answer those calls and augment our business by even doing things like eventually, taking orders, right? Putting appointments on the calendar for service visits, things of that nature. So that's how I view things, opposed to eliminating or downsizing contact centers. It's more about the augmentation of the overall contact center and those employees that are already there, making their lives better and making the business better.
Damon, let's look up at the leadership of the company and where the contact center sits. Clearly, there's been a lot of change in customer experience technology the last 20 years, and the contact center has gotten more of a seat at the table. Have you seen any unique changes due to advances in technology, just even in the last few years, about where the contact center sits at the top of the business?
Yes, definitely. We're seeing it have more a seat at the table and driving the UC decisions, right? So in terms of the telephony that you're buying, right, or what you're looking to buy from an overall bundle perspective, contact center is an entry point. Whereas previously, maybe 5 years ago or more, we would have seen kind of the telephony drive what the contact center functionality, and hey, does your telephony solution have a contact center? Now we're kind of seeing it come back the other way, right? Where it's, we're starting to see what I'll call sort of wave two of a telephony expansion, which is more of that business communications, customer communications expansion. That started to drive the conversation more and more around how do we move to a cloud VoIP system? How do we move to a cloud communication system? Because we want some of these functions that we know we need, and that now we want to attach telephony to it as opposed to the other way around.
Got it. And are you seeing a less of a technical role involved in this, like CMO, Chief Customer Officer?
I think it's a mixed bag, frankly. I think, and it depends on the size of the customer. Definitely the larger you go, I think you see more of that. And there are definitely organizations where the CMO becomes, the most important area where we're driving the technology decision from because of the use case we've got here. Some smaller technology being driven by the business owner, by the CIO, by the technology owner of that company. So it is a bit of a mixed bag as we look up and down the spectrum.
And we're nearing the end of the traditional interview, and we're going to get to some rapid fire. But do you have any closing thoughts and advice for our listeners that want to improve the telephony, the communication with their customers? They don't offer texting yet with customers. Like, where should they start?
Yeah, I would say the most important thing from my perspective is don't worry about if you have a formal contact center or not. You deserve that functionality. Your customers deserve that functionality. And so the ability to be able to, have texting, have social media, have those functionalities. So we introduced something in September called GoTo Connect CX as an example, Blake. And what it is an all-in-one telephony customer communication solution. It's not a contact center. We have a contact center solution as well, but it gives you, for a value price point, the ability to have a lot of those functions that you need all in one package. And so, that's what people should be looking for, is how do I, solve my telephony needs, but how do I get that as part of the overall, my need to communicate with my customers? And last thing I'd say is something very, very simple. how can you communicate over text with your customers over the same phone number that they would call?
Mm.
Nobody wants to get a text message from an 8928 number. We've all gotten those. We get them every single day, or whatever the code is. You want to get it from your dental provider, your automotive provider. And so look for something that gives you that functionality and gives you that over the different communications options. You don't have to settle for something that's less than that. And then integrations into your CRM, I think, are important as well. But look for that all-in-one platform solution that gives you those options that you can pull from, and that provides a really good foundation for you to build on as you move forward.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all about that comfort, that familiarity for the customer, that they want to recognize who they're talking to.
Absolutely. It's critical. It's absolutely mission critical for them to be able to respond to your text, respond to your communication, is knowing who that comes from.
Yeah, it's just such a beautiful experience when we just make it easy for customers. Well, let's get into some rapid fire, Damon, to get to know you a little bit and have some fun. Are you ready for the quick questions?
Let's do it.
All right, first question. What's the most important part of your morning routine?
Taking a few minutes just to clear my head and understand what's happening for the day and make sure that I'm prepped for every meeting that's coming that I know about.
What TV show are you currently streaming or watching?
Oh, let's see, Penguin.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay, I have to tell my husband. He keeps asking me to watch that. What is your favorite leadership book or resource?
My favorite leadership book or resource, and hmm, it's a tie between Good to Great. I still love, Good to Great. I also love The Seven Habits of Highly Successful People by Stephen R. Covey, which you will tell from my name. It's not a direct relative, but I do love both those books. And Seven Habits is truly timeless, so I recommend both of those.
Wait a minute. Okay, it's not a direct relative, but it's a relative.
Yes, there is a relationship.
That's
Yes.
awesome. So cool. I've never had that answer on this show. All right. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
uh, Being happy with what I have versus what I want.
What is one mental health strategy for managing hard days?
Understanding the warning signs of you going redline, and backing off and literally shutting down and taking a walk. That's what I do. I take a walk when that happens.
Love that. What is your favorite type of vacation?
Beach vacations. I love Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. If you
Can't
could,
be beat.
yes. If you could have lunch with anyone dead or alive, who would it be?
Hmm, that is such a hard one. Let's see here. Off the top of my head, I would say probably Abraham Lincoln.
Do you know literally like 70% of people, I think, or 60 say that? And I literally in my head was going, he's going to say Abraham Lincoln. I should just tell people, like in my questions, like, I should say you cannot say Abraham Lincoln. No, it's a
Yes,
good
you should.
answer.
I'm not even sure why it came to mind, to be honest with you.
No,
Just
I mean,
I think he's would be a fascinating person, obviously.
absolutely. And a lot of people agree with you. And lastly, if you had to describe your outlook in one quick motto, what would it be?
I don't know how I'm going to win, but I know I'm not going to lose.
I love that. That's really good. All right, Damon, if people want to learn more about you and GoTo, what's the best place to do that?
Yeah, goto.com/connect would be a great way to learn more about the solution, about the products. And then if you can look me up on LinkedIn, Damon Covey, you'll find a lot about me, a lot about my postings, a lot about the things I've done in the past.
Awesome. Well, this has been so fun. Thank you for taking some time to answer my questions. And everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Modern Customer Podcast. Until next time. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on social media, including Instagram, LinkedIn, X, and more.